All right, well, hey, is your home prepared for the frigid temperatures we're about to get? As Anthony said, this weekend's a good time to do it, especially tomorrow. That hard freeze is going to be here starting on Sunday night into Monday, and it's not too late to get your home ready as well. Right now, joining us live with preparation tips is Joe Bany. He is the Director of Field Operations at John Moore Services. Good morning, Joe. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Hey, good morning. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no problem. So, okay, let's start with the first thing here. What kinds of damage could people face with a freeze like we're expecting Tuesday, Wednesday, with temperatures in the teens and 20s?
So the typical damage starts outside, right? I mean, hose bibs will freeze up, water lines entering the home, sprinkler systems. Typically, when you get those short bursts of cold weather, it really kind of sticks outside. As the cold weather sticks around a little bit, you get into a couple of days, several nights, overnight lows. Well, now you can start talking about damage inside of your house, to your plumbing system, your water pipes. We're in Houston. We have a lot of water pipes in our attics, so you can create a lot of damage internally if we're not prepared for that. If we get some rain, you got to be careful about your roof and your gutters, and maybe some older trees and limbs falling and breaking things. So there's a lot of things to pay attention to as this kind of weather that we're not used to comes around every once in a while.
That's a great point. I think that's one of the things growing up in the Midwest, we were kind of built for cold like that, but down here we're just not. What are some of the things that can make a home vulnerable to damage? You mentioned a couple of things, water pipes up in the attics or just those exposed pipes outside that aren't necessarily buried in the ground, right?
Yeah, those are the things that, I know it's going to be beautiful tomorrow and people are going to be wrapped up in the football this weekend, but we need to get out and go ahead and get them taken care of, right? Preventative maintenance, being out in front of it, being aware. And so, wrapping those main water lines coming into the home, let's make sure those things, stay functional as we go through this week. But if you don't have preparation in your attic already, take a look at it, understand that there are things you can do, and the things outside kind of seem temporary. We wrap them, then we unwrap them for the summer because we want to use them. But the things you can do in your attic can be permanent, long-term. Do it one time and you don't really have to worry about it, such as blowing in attic insulation, sealing your attic door access with an attic tent, keep the cold air out, the warm air in. And so there's quite a few things that a lot of people may not be aware of, and we could absolutely help you get it taken care of.
Well, that sounds great. Yeah, I can see that one. An attic in particular is one of those spots that you just forget about your home. You're so focused on what's happening outside. What about generators? Is that something that folks need to get? I know sometimes the space generators are not as expensive as like the full generators that can run thousands of dollars. Kind of where do you fall on that?
Yeah, so whatever you can afford and what fits your family, right? And you've got to have a plan, right? The biggest killer for us, a couple of years ago with the really big freezes, yeah, it was cold, but most people were prepared for it. But when you lose power, you're not prepared for that, and it makes everything 10 times worse, right? You can't heat the home, it makes it miserable to be inside of there. So a secondary electric source, whether that's a portable generator and you can only run a few things in your home, or a full standby generator, absolutely everybody would love to run their whole home. But if you have one of those and you're going to be dependent on them, again, just like prepping for the house, let's get out this weekend, make sure they're working, make sure they're doing what they're supposed to do. Some people are fortunate enough to have a secondary heat source, whether it's a gas stove or electric space heaters or whatever that is. Make sure they're in good working order, right? Check that stuff too. Give them a dry run, turn them on, make sure they're working, make sure they're in good working order. It's not going to be a danger to you or your family. And if you haven't used your heater yet, and I know there are some people that haven't, fire that thing up early too. Let's make sure that it is in good working order also before we become super dependent on it, early next week.
Yeah, that sounds like a key to prepare before you need to scramble at the very last minute is what it sounds like you're telling us here.